in. There's no better way to start the show than with, oh, you stopped dancing. Hey.
Share dancing is
Have
hard.
you've always been a dancer, like since you were young, stuff like that?
Not like properly trained,
Yeah.
but I come from a family that like dances at parties.
Okay,
You
I
know,
got
like
you.
that kind of thing. And my mom is very theater oriented,
Right.
so like that kind of dance, like a little bit of that. But I didn't get like proper dance classes per se until like adulthood. But
And you took dance classes, or you just like learned how to dance from?
I would say that it's comparable to the plot of Step Up 2,
Okay.
which is like I learned it in the streets and then watched a lot of music videos. And then I found myself in a situation where I had to like know how to do it for real. And I was like, what? So I took a lot of classes
Because
after
I
that.
remember the last one I forgot to introduce you to in the back. If you start to hear sounds and stuff like that, we have two new community members, Otis and Garfield, two guinea pigs over there. Yeah. So you'll hear them. I just saw them run across, so you'll hear them
Yay.
at certain points throughout the show.
That's fantastic.
Because I remember the last time we interviewed, which was at Indie Hall, you told me about your parents, and I think your dad is like. Your dad always gave you this sense of like independence or something like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
instead of always helping you, he would be like, "What was the example you gave?"
I like
It
couldn't
was
get something down.
off
And
the
he was
shelf,
like,
right?
he was like, how would a monkey solve this problem? And I was like,
Exactly.
I guess
And your mom was similar, or was your mom like? Did she have a different type of personality?
my mom's a professional educator, so like I credit her tremendously with not only just like creating a house full of books and just like valuing cultural experiences, like being interested in, well, again, reading, theater, foreign films, just the kind of stuff that I don't think I would have been exposed to had I been in just like any other house in that same town. And as a teacher, she's a very, very capable, qualified, competent teacher. So she just directly also taught me a lot of stuff. So I got a lot of advantages academically by being raised by two people who super valued education. And I don't think that it's great the way that we center like test scores as a means of like assessing which kids should get scholarships, but it's certainly helped me out. But I don't think it's like a good system to maintain. But
No, I agree, and that's what I'm at. Do you know what Montessori is? Like what Montessori, like what their, I guess, philosophy is?
kind of, but tell me, yeah.
I mean, and I probably should know exactly what it is, being as I've been working here for like 5 years, right? But I think it's basically when the students are allowed to guide their own education, right? So like things they're more interested in, they can focus on that. I don't think there's as many timelines. Like obviously you have to turn in your assignments, but it's like on your own time. If you want to knock it all out early in the year, or if you need more time, you can do that. Like the trick though is the fact that there's like a bunch of different students here, different personality types, and each one has a customized menu of education. The trick is to sort of like find teachers or enough teachers that can accommodate
Yeah.
all the different styles of like learning. You know what I mean? So they've been doing a good job, but obviously with anything, it's gonna be like some challenges and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But yeah, that's what Montessori is. They have like certain rules, community based. Take your time. They really lean into your specific style of like learning and stuff like that. So it's dope. I
Yeah.
still don't see myself as a teacher, to be honest.
Yeah.
I sort of, I guess any kind of teacher, it's like a transfer of enthusiasm, or you just, like a teacher doesn't have to mean,
Well, there's also lots of different ways of teaching the same content, and it like what I'm hearing is it sounds like there's a personalized method to it, and like all of the instruction that I do, I feel several people could come to that class and one person really loves it and vibes on it, and another person is like struggle busing, and it's not necessarily a statement on the teacher not being good. Like sometimes, teachers can do things that will make it easier for all different types of learners. And there's a lot that goes into like figuring out what are the objectives for this and how am I going to construct a class so that somebody who comes through it can answer these questions or state these things or whatever it is. Like you come up with those objectives at the top, and then everything about your lesson plan is to serve those objectives being met. And then you need to have some sort of assessment was like, did that happen? Are they able to do that thing? Can they recite these things? Can they explain whatever? And, you know, there's those facets of teaching, but there's also just that, like, something about vibe, right? And like being who you are at the right time, at the right place to be able to capture something. Because there were definitely opportunities I had that I didn't really take full advantage of because I just wasn't in a place to be able to yet. And like, I think, for example, like, I think I took ballet to speak of dance classes. I think I took like a couple classes when I was like 6, but I was like, bleh. I didn't do it. And it's because it was like, that's not, I mean, if you're going to do ballet, you have to do it when you're really young. But like, I was not the kind of kid who was going to succeed at that.
And you knew that early.
No, I know that now.
Okay.
But like at the time, I was like, this is boring. And what I wanted to do was put on plays in my backyard. The level of structure required for, you know, gymnastics and ballet classes for kids is really high, and I don't think I was that guy.
And you did that too, didn't you? Because I remember you said like you're an only child,
Yeah.
right? So you had to basically keep yourself entertained.
Oh yeah.
And that's sort of like shape your personality, right? Like the
Yeah.
parents that you had, you being an only child, you come from what's your town, Nebraska?
Oh yeah, a tiny town in western Nebraska. So like for me, I've had to be able to entertain myself my whole life, and so the idea of being lonely or bored is kind of alien to me because it's like I'm extroverted, but also to the same degree that I feel very, very comfortable just like being by myself. So like if I'm gonna be friends with someone or in a relationship with someone, like they have to be at least as much fun as hanging out by myself.
Right. Okay. Well, guess what, Tim? Let's start the show.
Okay. Oh,
Not
sure.
like we didn't already, right? But so now, I always have to show gratitude, right, and thank people, guests to come to the show and I just want to chop it up with me. I'm always appreciative of that. We've been rocking out. We did, I don't know how many projects, photos, a couple videos. You know what I'm saying?
1,000 years. Yeah.
So this is the 2023 version of our portfolio, our collab. So thank you for coming out to the show, right?
Thank you.
Chopping it up with me. Now, here's the interesting question because people will find out who are the people that don't already know you and that are about to get to know you, right? You'll find out why this is an interesting question or request. At the beginning of this show, right, because this isn't a chatty patty show where I'm trying to get like the juicy scoop and stuff like that. It's wholesome, right? So I always ask people at the beginning of the show if they can open us up with some sort of affirmation or prayer, right? And whatever that means to you, doesn't mean like praying to Jesus, doesn't mean like anything like that, right? Whatever prayer or affirmation or whatever means to you,
Okay.
could you open us up, the show, with some sort of prayer or affirmation or, again, whatever that means
Yeah.
to you?
I mean, I use different sort of verbiage depending on what it is, but I feel very, very drawn towards that sort of. I enjoy the ritual of it. I enjoy the like connecting to something bigger than myself sort of facet to it. So like, for instance, if I'm about to do a burlesque show, I might ask the universe, like, I'm very grateful to be here. Thank you for giving me all the stuff that got me to this moment that allows me to be here and doing this thing that I very value and I recognize as rare and special. And so, if you feel like doing it, I would appreciate sending me, whatever luck or fortune or whatever you want to give me right now to help me take best advantage of it, using the skills that I've worked on and all the advantages that I've been given so that I can make the most of this.
That's dope. I don't know why I didn't know that. I'm not that I'm surprised, but I didn't know that about you. And not that you seem like
What?
somebody that would be like, how you just said like the universe and like you ask.
Well, I was raised Catholic, so I went through a phase where I was like, of course you have to go the other direction, where I was like ardently atheist and really in people's faces about it because I needed to. I had to go that direction first. I had to like push back against all of the systems of like power and really what Catholicism represented to me was just another facet of like, America and capitalism and patriarchy and racism and all of those kind of things. And so I had to get real salty about it because I was like, you guys are all stupid. And then eventually I came to a place where I'm like, let people enjoy things and like find your own thing. And Just be who you are and seek information. And if somebody finds calm and community in a thing that I think is stupid, just let them.
Right, right. When did you come to that realization? Or was this like before I knew you, or like after? Because I mean,
I don't know. I think it's a process. I don't think that it's ever done.
right. So like, let's say when I first met you, though, right? Are you closer to like source, God, the universe now? Like, are you closer now than you were
Maybe.
before? About the same, or if you had to like give her?
I don't know. It's hard to gauge. I don't think it was a super important part of my life. And I still wouldn't say that it's like a thing that takes up like a lot of my day. It's just that it's interesting. I had a car ride with a friend the other day who wanted to be a Catholic nun. And she told them that she used to do burlesque, which is partially true because she still does it. And they were like, skirt. And so that's not going to happen. And we just had this long conversation about like, what did it mean to her? Like, what had she been wanting to do with it? And I talked about my own experiences with Catholicism and like the profound sense of loss when you have a belief system and a structure that provides a lot of answers when the world is scary. And then to have to give that up for whatever reason, whether it's because someone told you no, or it's because I read books and realized that the Catholic Church has just been a means of like keeping wealth in the hands of certain people, like that kind of thing. So there's a sadness that comes with that. But instead of being mad about it forever, I decided there are lots of other ways to like build community and inspire people and be inspired and to help people. And like what I really want out of a religion is like, taking care of the vulnerable and using our resources for good and like giving people a space to come together and feel safe and celebrated and happy and that kind of stuff. So, and that can happen a lot of different ways. It doesn't have to be a religion. And you can get those things out of, for instance, the burlesque community. I feel like that's been a space for a lot of folks to find like safety and joy and friends and lovers. And also in fitness, there are a lot of people who like they find their friendships and the people that they hang out with and the people that affirm them and doing a thing that makes them feel powerful and good. Like you can find it wherever.
I was going to ask you if you felt like the burlesque community could be not considered a religion, but it's a tight-knit community. And you find those things, like you said, community, it's a safe space.
Hopefully.
You know what I mean? Stuff like that. So.
Hopefully.
Oh, okay.
But that's the thing is with any community, once it's made up of people. And community management is incredibly hard. And I think that I have kind of stepped back in many ways from my role of doing community leadership in burlesque because I don't think it needs to be helmed by a white lady, but at the same time I do really value that, and I have contributed a lot of my energy towards making it a thing that is more community and not just a job. So I value that. It's it's different in every city. It has the capacity to be like this international thing where you got your like brothers and sisters who do burlesque throughout the world and throughout history. It has that capability, and if you want to use it that way, you can. It's also just a job. It's also an art form. It's
Right.
It's a lot of things.
Your name and where you're from.
Hi, I'm Dr. Timaree. I live in Philadelphia and have for a long time, but you could never live in Philadelphia long enough to say you're from Philadelphia unless you were born here. So I am from Western Nebraska.
Mm-hmm. How long have you been here again in Philly?
Since 2005.
Okay, that's us.
It's a while, yeah.
That's when I moved back up. I'm from Philly, but I moved to Florida for about 4 years. It came back up in 05 and got into fitness in 05. You know what I mean? And then the next one is like what you do, whether it's like your occupation, whether it's like your, not your hobby, but like your passion projects, whatever. Like, what do you do? Like, how do you keep yourself busy?
I do whatever interests me, and that often changes. And I get into things very excitedly and then throw myself into them. And currently, at this point, things that I do include professional fitness instruction, nightlife events, burlesque performance, sexuality education, writing, researching, and giving food to my friends, making them come over to my apartment so I can feed them.
If you could only do, because that's a lot of a long list of like things that you do. If you could only do one, like you had to really lean into one, whether it's education, sex education, burlesque, fitness, what would you choose and why?
I literally couldn't answer that. And the reason that I'm able to do the things that I am is because I have this like building block system. If I didn't work in fitness, it would make it much harder to maintain a burlesque performance career, to be honest. Because like the fitness component not only is like a pretty reliable, steady source of income, it's, it doesn't fluctuate as dramatically as some other industries do. I'm able to control how many hours I work. Plus I'm like guaranteed to work out. I get this like, all the doses of all the brain chemicals that keep me feeling good. It's a form of therapy. And if I took that out, I would not be able to accomplish as much in a given day, to be honest. And there was a time where I thought that what I wanted to do was just academia. I was just going to do sexuality education exclusively. And for a number of reasons, that path didn't happen. And I just have to say that it's probably for the best, because I would have had to give up performance. I would have had to give up fitness. And I can't imagine being as happy if I would have had to give those things up. But I also would be sad if I wasn't doing writing or something that was cognitive in that way too. So I really like having that like diversity of buckets to draw from.
Same. How'd you get into fitness?
I worked out a lot, and then I was at a gym that was at my grad school. It was like this really fancy brand new gym, and they were just trying to get the program started, and they didn't have any teachers there because it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere. So for a while they would just like roll a cart out and show a video and that wasn't really necessarily working very well. But I became friends with the manager, and she's like, if we paid for you to get certified, would you go be an instructor? Because she just like saw me there all the time, and like we knew each other, and she understood my vibe. And I went to the audition of somebody that was going to be a teacher, and she was just like, you know what, actually you should be also doing this. So I got certified first in, I think, just regular group X. I was doing Pilates, kickboxing, dance. I was just picking up a ton of certifications just because like, yeah, this is fun. I like learning new stuff. I like working out. And it changed my life forever.
Do you remember your first client, like your first? Because I remember my first client.
Yeah.
I wasn't nervous, but I was like, oh snap, I know how to work myself up. But I was like, oh, I gotta work out with you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So Jen Tinney.
Okay.
Was my first client. Do you remember your first? You've been in the game so long.
Well, I wasn't doing personal training. Okay. I was doing classes. Okay. So I do remember my earlier classes. Like I remember what the room looked like. I remember the first time somebody gave me like feedback, and I was like, oh man, that's really important. But it's somehow devastating that I didn't already know that.
Remember what they said?
Yeah, it was just something really, really basic. It was a Pilates class, and at the end she said something about like it would be helpful if you like started a countdown if you're like 3 more left, 2 more, 1. And I was like,
it's good. That's good advice. But
it's so obvious, and I don't know why I didn't always think to do it, but like it's there's just, there's so much stuff you just learn on the job, like how to do an 8 count while also saying something else, just like things like that. You just get better with practice.
Do you right? I just realized that too. Not that I saw you as a personal trainer, but like you've never been like a personal trainer.
I've done it a little bit.
Okay.
It's not really my favorite.
I was about to say like I prefer groups too. Like I've done more one-on-ones, but like I totally prefer groups over like the one-on-ones.
Yeah.
The energy is different.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. What's on your playlist? I usually ask this question in general, but like your work since you do group fitness, right? What are like 3 songs that have to be? Matter of fact, because you play great music, period. Your shows and all that. What are 3 songs that you have to play if it's like a fitness class, right? And matter of fact, give me 2 songs that no matter what will be on the fitness playlist,
Well,
and 2 songs that are on the burlesque.
So I'm always changing the playlists for fitness. Like for instance, in my spinning classes, I have a set playlist that I'll do for a month, and then I change it out, and it's all different. For dance classes, I come up with a playlist, and then like half of those will make it to the next one, and then they're gone the next one, and just keep changing it out like that. So it will come back to songs again later, but it's just constantly cycling through. So if I were to answer this with like something that's a banger that I'm listening to right now, Let's see. So the band The Knocks, I've just really, really gotten into them recently. And they have this song called Slow Song. And it's just like a disco beat. And it is a kind of slow song, but it works in spinning. It works in dance class. And it's just real catchy. I put Immigrant Song by Led Zeppelin back on my spinning playlist because that's just a banger. In burlesque, I have a really big range of things that I do because I have an all metal show. So of course you're going to be getting your like Slayer, your Gojira. There's like so many cool like smaller bands whose names don't even come into my head, but I listen to on Spotify. There's a lot of like the big name stuff, and then I also just have like some favorite numbers that are just like other genres. Like I do a lot of songs by The Gossip, and what else? Number One Crush by Garbage is one of my signature numbers. It's kind of a rock song. Yeah, I'm all over the place with it though.
Yeah, you got great taste. And
Thanks.
so I've only been like a couple of your shows at is it Frankie Bradley's?
Some of my shows are there, yeah.
Is Frankie Bradley still a thing, or
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
okay, I got you. What was the one that shut down? Wasn't there like a famous club that
I mean,
like
there's
everyone in the city they were kind of like sad that it shut down?
there's a lot of venues that have closed. What Frankie Bradley's used to be was Sisters. And I did my shows at Sisters, but they really only have like, what did I hear the other day? I think the number of lesbian bars left in the U.S. is very small.
Really, yeah.
And,
Because
well, for one thing, the good thing is that it's safer to go elsewhere. So if you're like a queer woman and you want to go out, you can go to another place now, but that means that there's a smaller population of people to support that. And like Sisters was a big club. It was like multiple
was a lesbian
stories.
bar.
Yeah. And it just wasn't sustainable at that size. And I think that, the community also doesn't drink as heavily as like, that's not to say that like, like lesbians don't drink, but they also just don't make as much money. Like women don't make as much money. So they don't have the same kind of, let's go out on a Tuesday, let's go out on a Wednesday kind of vibe as necessarily other populations.
now, is that something that your average person would know, like that information about like how lesbians don't make as much, or women don't make as much, or do you know that because that's part of like? What makes you so because I mean I know where you grew up, right? I don't like to use the word like aware, but like not every white woman cares about the things that you know about. You know what I mean? About like this is who benefited from like affirmative action, and like women don't make as much, and like you care about these things. Is what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Everyone should care, but like you know what I mean. Like what drives you to sort of advocate for like certain groups of people?
I think that everybody's like lot is ultimately tied in together. If you were not born a millionaire, you're really all in the same boat. Like, that's not to say everybody's experiences are the same. Obviously, as a white person in America, you're never really going to know the same kind of struggle. But I think that like class was one of the first introductions for me, the first ways that I understood the ways that inequality are sustained. Because I didn't come from like much money, and I always had food and all that kind of stuff, but like I could definitely have access to poverty. Like I lived nearby it and that sort of thing. And to come to understand that it's not like a personal failing. There's like a whole lot of reasons that it happens, and like an entire town will just get shut down because like an industry moves away. And there's so many things that are just outside of a person's control. And my entire lineage, all of my ancestors, like came here around the same time to, escape genocide. So like,
What are you, by the way? About your nationality?
I'm like a mixture of random poor whites, from from like Ireland, like a lot of countries that aren't countries anymore, but are like, Germanic and like Eastern European and those kind of things. So the ones that I know for sure about are like Ireland and like that sort of thing. But there's just a mixture. But it's like when I think about, what they gave up to become white, I don't know anything about their languages, and they made that choice, and I don't judge them for it because that's what they thought they needed to do. But it's just how much everybody gives up for the idea that you're going to eventually become wealthy. And it's not a dream that everybody can get for reasons that are, the game is rigged. And so I think that's like that, and learning about the ways in which religion has been used to keep people unequal. And I think once I saw that, I was just like, oh, it's just all a bunch of different pieces in the same puzzle. And you can't only care about one of them. And I can't only care about feminism, like just because I have personal experience with like sexism and I don't necessarily know what it's like to experience racism, but it's the same interlocking mechanisms. And once seen can't be unseen.
Dope. You're dope.
Oh, you're dope. Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, so like when I was younger, not that I worked out for like aesthetics or like I wanted to, walk around with six-pack abs and stuff like that. But the older I've gotten, the more fitness. I'm still a fitness dude, right? But like it's more like therapeutic now. It's not that, yes, I still want to be in shape, stuff like that. But it's like I needed to maintain my focus and my level of like sanity. Right? Because the older you get, there's more things happening. You are more aware of things, right? So my relationship with fitness has evolved as I've gotten older, right? And I would imagine maybe yours too. Maybe it's exactly, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So now, being as though you are tuned in sexually, right? Has sex evolved as far as like the way you view it or your thought process? Like, is it the same as it was 15 years ago, like how you view sex? Is it exactly the same, or has that also evolved now that you've lived more life?
Oh, it's constantly evolving. I think when I was a kid, I was just like a pervy, horny little kid, and I was just like interested in sex. I think that like a lot of kids are interested and curious about it, but again, my family valued education, and so I wasn't like necessarily shut away from being able to like read books about that. And that, as a nerd, also, I was just like, well, this is an interesting subject. I'm going to go look into this. And so I learned about this stuff, and other kids were interested in it. And so I started being the kid that knew about sex long before I was like having any kind of like partnered sexual activity. But I felt comfortable talking about it. And I think that's probably the biggest thing, is not necessarily what you're actively doing, but feeling comfortable in having those conversations. And knowing that not everybody felt comfortable, I felt like this really big calling to go into sex ed. And I also felt this really big need to be like over the top about it, to like speak so openly and be like effusively sexual so that people could see that you could do that and survive. Like to just push up against all the prudery, which again, to talk about those systems of oppression, like if somebody can tell you what to do with your own body and your own sexuality and who you can love, there's nothing they can't control. So like I'm very like, fuck all those systems. Like anybody who's going to tell me what I could wear and who I could sleep with and all that kind of stuff, those people are not to be listened to. And so again, that was part of this, like, it's not even rebellious, it's like activism to me. And then as I got older, interestingly, people started to respond to me as though I were attractive in a way that they hadn't when I was growing up in the Midwest. And I don't know if people were just scared of me in the Midwest or if I'm just more Phillies type or something. But once people started reacting to me that way, I was like, I'm going to make money off of this. And so I was a go-go dancer and I got into burlesque, and I'm like, oh, sure, if you guys want to give me money for doing this, I'm about it. And that's really changed my relationship to it too, because now it's like there's who I am as a person in my private life, and then there's like what I'm doing on stage, which is very, very sexual. And it's a complicated experience to have this duality and this compartmentalization between these different personas. And I don't feel the need to be as like in your face about it in my day life, but I still very much believe all those things politically about like you should be able to talk about the clitoris, you know.
Be like, "Ooh, she said the C word."
Yeah.
You know, everybody gets
Yeah.
right. You're you're a performer, right? So there's like a persona that you create to perform, right?
Yeah.
Is that persona far removed from like, not to get into like your business in the bedroom, but like, are they two different people, or
No,
like
it's just a dialed up version. Like when I teach a burlesque class and we're talking about performance persona, one of the points I really want to make is that it's like you're not trying to emulate anyone else. You can be inspired by Rihanna, you can be inspired by J-Lo, but you're not trying to emulate that person because you'll just be a cover band. The best case scenario, you know, which is like, that's fine. People make a good living being a cover band. But like what I would recommend to you if you're trying to be an artist is to also be able to come up with your own originals. And that requires tapping into the version of yourself, the parts of you that are authentically really there, that like know you're a badass, that like, yes, I look good. I am competent. I am capable. I am awesome. I am foxy. Just dial those all the way up. And the parts of you that are worried about what people think can just like take a nap for a while.
I like that. So like, you know, comedians, right, or any kind of performer, right? There's usually some point in their career or one of their performances where they like bomb, right? Comedians can bomb, like the joke didn't land, or if you sing, you could miss a note or something like that, right?
Yeah.
I almost feel like it's almost impossible for you to bomb during burlesque. But is that impossible? And if not, like how do you bomb?
I have experienced bombing on many levels. I have experienced bombing as a teacher where I know that that just did not connect. It was not the right content for the audience. It wasn't the right means of conveyance. I wasn't doing whatever. I've definitely done that. And then there's also performances where it's just like, that was weak. And like,
like,
you know,
it's something people would notice, or is like a personal, like.
It depends.
Okay.
I mean, being a burlesque performer is less about technical precision and more about connecting with the audience, because you can be a very technical performer and that's some people's skill set, but some of the most adored performers are not technically precise. They're not even dancers. What they're very, very good at is being charismatic and creating that connection with the audience. So if you're like just off, you know, if like the vibe is off, or, you know, sometimes people will drink too much before they go on stage, or you're just in a bad mood, or you didn't stretch, or you're tired, or, you know, it's like it's midnight and you're finally getting up there and you're in a salty mood or whatever. There's a lot of reasons that it could go wrong.
Right, gotcha. That makes sense. Like, I'm just thinking from the standpoint of like, you know, I came to see some flesh, and it's like, if I see flesh,
I mean, people have like costume errors.
Okay.
Stuff goes hinky and you can't get out of your costume. That happens. It happens. That's real.
And also, not to get in your business, you know, whatever, you don't have to. Just not if it's no one's business, then obviously we'll go to the next question. But I saw on I think there's a post you posted recently, and if I read it right, it was saying that, you know, you've got you know, your guy. Shout out to the homie. I won't put his name out there right now, right? But then there was somebody that was taking pictures of you, right? And
So to clarify, I can just tell you what that post was about.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm poly. I have multiple
that's
partners.
what I want to get into.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Tell me about that, if you can. That's what I'm saying.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm poly, and for me, that is a part of my orientation. That just like, I think I'm built for having multiple relationships at the same time, and people do polyamory in different ways. The way that I personally like to do it is kind of minimal. I don't like have like a ton of partners. I usually like to have.
Is this your first one too, or have you done?
No. I've been poly like a long time. I think the first time I was in like a significant relationship with more than one person at a time, and of course this is all above board, they all know about each other. That's the really important thing, is that everybody is aware, everybody has agreed to it, everyone is informed, and they're on board. And I think the first one I was in was like 2008, maybe something like that. So yeah, that's been a part of my life for a long time. But for me, I usually have like, I can maintain about like 2. I think I can have like, you know, if you threw like some satellite stuff in there, like people who live in other cities, like, you know, like every once in a while we'd see each other, but like I'm very bad at even just remembering to text people, so I can't do more than that.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. And it's I mean, so far so good. Like you like it. It gives you, you know, how you
Yeah.
said like, you know, with your career, you like having the diversity. Does
Yeah.
that apply to like your relationship
Yeah.
too? It fulfills like different things that you, not that you
Yeah.
can't get it from one person, but having.
Well, I think our expectations so if monogamy is what feels comfortable and better for people, I highly recommend doing that if that's what you want. But if you feel like it's your only option, if you feel like it's compulsory, that leads to a lot of really bad behaviors, including sort of treating people like objects that you're shopping for. And if you can only have one, then you're going to try to get the best deal you can with what you have on the market, right? And so you're going to like view people from this lens of like, I could do better. And instead, if I don't have to have all of my needs met by one person, and I don't have to have just like this one person that I lock down, instead I can just meet people where they are, and I can see what we connect on, what stuff we like to do together. And if like you and I like to go to horror movies together and this person does not, then I will go to horror movies with this person. And if this person likes to get choked out and this person does not, then we will do the choking, you know, like that kind of thing. And so one of the advantages to multiple partners is that like you don't have to be everything to everybody, and you don't have to expect one person to always be there for you either, because like everybody goes through cycles of like being more and less available and needing more and less support. And so, you know, you have more of a team.
Does everyone have to, I mean, obviously, even, you know, polygamous relationships vary, right? But does
So
it
polygamous is married.
Okay.
So poly means many. Polyamory is interesting because it's a Latin word and a Greek word, but it means many loves. And so polyamory just implies that you have multiple like relationships.
Polyamory.
Yeah. Gamy means mate. So polygamy is about having multiple spouses.
Oh, okay.
So
I
like
got you.
if you had multiple wives, that's polygynous. If you have multiple husbands, that's polyandrous. But there's lots of other ways to be non-monogamous too. You could be a swinger, which means like you have like one steady partner and then y'all like do stuff with people, like, but mostly just sexually. You can have like a relationship anarchy, where like no one relationship is privileged above another, and that includes like friends too. So you might have like your number one person, not even hierarchically, but like the person you spend the most time with could be a friend. There's a lot of different ways to do it. You can have open, closed networks. Like it's just whatever works for the people who are in it.
Right. Does it work best if like everyone knows each other, or that's not even a
Well,
requirement?
that also varies.
Right.
Because I know some poly people who the way they prefer to do their relationships is like totally parallel. Like I know you sleep with other people, but I don't want to meet those people. I don't want to interact with them. That's not my business. Other people want to have like kitchen table polyamory, which like we would all be able to hang out together. We know each other's business. It's much more like communal family. There's garden party polyamory, which is like, I know you, I'm aware of you. If I see you at a party, I'll chat you up, but like we don't hang out. There's just lots of ways to do it.
What would your superhero name and power be? If you were a superhero, what would your name and power be?
Well, I mean, it'd probably just be Honey Tree of Eli. And then the power is like the powers of Mystique from the X-Men. So shape-shifting.
Oh, okay. I got you.
Because I think that's the coolest, because it allows you to do so many things that other powers let you do, but you know, all of them, right? Like Mystique is especially cool because she like learned all the languages too.
That is a good point.
She can like change into a person, but she also had to like be able to interact as that person. And then she also had fighting powers and all that kind of stuff. I think she's just like,
That's a good point. I never thought about that.
She's the best.
Right. Yeah, she's dope. Because at first I thought you just meant like mystique in general, like the power to be mysterious.
oh,
What
there's
you
like
mean.
charisma.
Right.
And, yeah, no, I mean
Right.
like literally Mystique from the
Mystique.
X-Men.
She's
Yeah.
dope. That's the blue lady, right?
She's blue, yeah, with
right,
the red hair.
yeah,
I
she's dope.
do a Mystique burlesque act. I don't know if do you remember Sean Reed from Sweat?
Black dude with
Yeah.
like bald.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do a number as a duet where he's Hank McCoy,
Oh,
Beast,
okay, yeah.
and he comes into a brothel, and I'm stealing all the secrets from his like bag and out of his pockets,
Okay,
and then we end
yeah,
up in a
yeah.
wrestling match, and he
Right.
like spinning me around, and we're doing a kick and fight and stuff.
That's
Yeah.
dope. Who's been your favorite character you've played? 'Cause I mean, you got Honey Tree. You've got like I see you sometimes. I see you dressed as Justin Bieber. I see you dressed as like you know what I mean.
Drag, yeah. My drag is a little Justin
Who's your
Bieber. Yeah.
favorite? If you had to like pick like a favorite too, what's been like your most enjoyable?
I mean, I do like doing Mystique stuff. When I do that, my friend Rory does this full body painting of me so that I'm blue with also like all of the contours of like the, muscle and stuff like that. So I'm not just blue. I'm like a blue person. And that is really fun to do. It's like a huge pain in the ass, and it's also part of why we became really good friends, is because like you get to know someone really well when they have to paint the inside of your butt cheeks. Like, that's your buddy.
Like you and I are friends.
Yeah. If we weren't already, we are now.
That's facts though. You told me about with the last interview we did, you told me about a painting that was like memorable. It was like something your parents had and some lady on the cliff, right?
Yeah.
And then you also told me about your favorite burlesque dancer or performer. You said she was like a badass. Do you ever know
was
what
it
that
probably
is?
like Camille 2000?
That's exactly who it is.
Yeah.
So who is she? And like why were you inspired? Or are you still inspired by her? Or?
Yeah. I mean, she passed away a couple years ago. Okay. So I don't remember if she was still alive when we did that last interview, but what I liked about her is she's just like a crazy badass, and just like unrepentantly so. She told stories of being a crazy person back in the day, like, and she also introduced stuff to burlesque that was new and pushed the edge and allowed it to continue to survive, because like burlesque as an art form has nearly died a bunch of times, and the only thing that keeps it going is somebody has to adapt it and change it. It has to do something new. And what she did in, I think it was the 70s, if I'm recalling this correctly, is she started making it much more like performance art. And her most famous work is like this like homage to the Marquis de Sade. So he's the origin of where we get the word sadism. And he wrote in France in like the 18th century, and it was a lot of stuff where there's a lot of sadism and masochism and, like sexual torture, BDSM kind of things. And so she was doing stuff like that where she like pretends to like, kill herself on stage, cut her tit off, whatever. And it's just like really groundbreaking at the time, because like if you're gonna go to entertainment, you've got a lot of options. But like when she was doing burlesque, your options are like, you could just go to a strip club. Like strip clubs were new. Like why not just go to a strip club? And so we had to do something different in burlesque. We had to make like a different kind of entertainment. And that's when she kind of stopped doing like the classical fan dance style and started making this much more, she called it like aggressive art or something like that.
Is she one of like the pioneers of why burlesque is the way it is now, or not necessarily?
I mean, she is a legend. Like, I think honestly, if you get into burlesque and you stay in it and you have any impacts, you are one of the pioneers. Like I said, it's like a constantly evolving thing. So, if somebody came before me and like made it through that time to keep it afloat, because again, this art form has nearly died a bunch of times. Like I just have a ton of gratitude to the people who did this when it was way harder.
Why was that the case, or is that the case where burlesque almost died? Like people,
it's just like it's an industry, so the economics of it have to keep changing. So like for instance, vaudeville was how a lot of people saw burlesque. Like vaudeville would travel around and it's comedians, and the origin of burlesque is actually very connected into comedy. The word burlesque comes from burla. It means to joke. It's satire, so it's inherently like comedic art form. And so vaudeville would travel around, and you'd go to a town and you do your shows and that kind of thing. But like when the radio was invented, all of the comedians went to the radio because that's where the money was. And so then they had to come up with something else to do. So it became much more about the shaky like titty dance, and it just kept evolving from there. And then it's sort of like an evolutionary tree. Like go-go came off of that, and then there's like strip clubs off of that, and then you start having like film and recording, and then you can just like straight up have porn videos, right? And so it's like you're competing with those things now. You have to do something else. You have to do something differently if you're going to get people to come to shows. So every single time there's like a technological or societal change, like you have to adapt to it. So
did the because you mentioned that like some lesbian bars and stuff closed. I don't know if you said recently or since the pandemic. How did the pandemic affect like gay bars and stuff like that?
I mean, it was probably the nail in a coffin of a lot of bars in general.
Because they already didn't have a lot of revenue, or
I mean, it was just hard on a lot of businesses. If you were struggling on any level before, And like, for instance, the bar that I started at, Sisters, closed long before the pandemic, but it was such a big venue. It was just not going to be sustainable at the level that it was with the ownership that it had. I mean, the man who ran it, or who owned it, it was run by a woman, but owned by a man. I don't think he wanted to, you know, risk a bunch of money to like do the things that would be required to like adapt and change. Because like the ones that are still around that still exist are either physically very small spaces, so they are much easier to sustain, or they're in places like Oklahoma where, you know, like the need for them is much more proximal. Because like in Philly, you could have pop-up nights, you can have just like a generalized gay bar, and you'll have like your gay girl party or whatever. So the need is there, but it doesn't feel as like, you know, like survival.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That makes sense. All right. Excuse me. What's your you have a best friend? Because I know you can be alone and like have a good time. Do you have any like?
I do. I am also poly in my friendships. I have several best friends.
What are some of your best friends like?
One of my closest friends that I spend the most time with, she is just this delightful alien weirdo who's lived in the US for I think like 5 years now, and we found each other through like fitness and working out. And then
Do I know her? No, randomly.
I don't know that you would have met.
Okay.
But like I would like you to, 'cause she's great.
Okay.
And
Well, you know, I'm sorry, not to cut you off. I do know one. I forgot.
Sarah?
without a name?
Yeah, you know
Okay,
Sarah.
okay,
yeah, Sarah and I have been going strong since like 2005. That's my biffle. I just don't get to see her as often because, well, first of all, she's got 5 partners. She's busy.
Okay.
She's a busy bee. But we still do a show together. We see each other when we can. But yeah, my friend Jenny, we started working out together every single day when I took all of my fitness virtual. And then we were like, hey, do you want to like go take a socially distanced walk through the park? 'Cause there's like nothing else to do. So, and then we just started hanging out all the time and just got to know each other better. And we describe our friendship as though we were raised in the same orphanage. Like we understand each other on this very like base level of like our challenges with the world are very similar. So even though we come from completely different places, it's like, yeah, we vibe super hard.
Random question: zombies or vampires?
You will get me talking for like an hour and a half because one of my areas of interest is in how you know, like horror films are used to discuss like what is culturally in the zeitgeist and then like the underlying fear, right? Like so for any horror thing to work, it has to work on the superficial level of like the fangs or the claw or the, you know, like stabby thing, but it also has to like represent something that is malleable. And zombies and vampires have been able to survive for so long because they are super adaptable to like the situation. So
Yeah, break it down.
when you are talking about zombies, what you're often talking about is either a fear of or desire for, you know, society collapsing and going back to basics. So zombies can be really appealing to some people because they're like, this is kind of already how I view the world. There's a reason that like Day of the Dead takes place in a mall, you know, and it's like zombies stand in for conformity and just like this idea of the culture, like they literally can do nothing except consume and force others to be like them. And then on the other hand, zombies are really attractive to people who like the idea of like the world's gotten too complicated. Now I have to know all these pronouns. Let's just graze it to the ground and I get to shoot whoever I want to.
Right.
So it's very appealing to a variety of demographics there. Vampires have held it down because they have been the stand-ins for marginalized groups for a long time. So like Dracula, for instance, probably the most famous representation historically, he was a stand-in for like swarthy gentlemen. And he's like, you know, he's like this foreign man who will like seduce your women,
Right.
right? And then like convert them, and then they can never come back.
I've never watched a vampire movie or a zombie movie the same way.
Yeah. Well, and then they kept changing it. So then like the Anne Rice vampires, they are eternally young. They have this very, you know, like flashy, fancy lifestyle. They can't procreate directly. They have to convert. And that shit was coming out in the 80s and the 90s. They're a stand-in for gays. Like,
Okay.
And
And this is Anne Rice's, like she put that spin on vampires?
I don't think she was the first, but like that's definitely part of the appeal of the way she wrote them, is they are a stand-in for like sexual minorities in a lot of ways, especially because she made them have a lot of sex in their books. And then you see like the Twilight series, which is really interesting because it was written by a Mormon.
Oh, really?
Right?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So like the sex is non-existent. It's about this like distance, and then they can't have sex until they're like married, and like there's all this longing, and it's just like it's all these archetypes from like romance novels, but with all of the sex taken out of it.
I just realized that too. Like, cause I saw them all.
Yeah.
And I get some of the kids like they laugh at me. I'm like, bruh.
Yeah.
Twilight, New Moon. I like those movies.
So I can't answer zombies versus vampires. You would have to tell me which zombie, which vampire.
Right.
Yeah.
Because so many.
Because we're talking about very different ones.
Right. Good answer. Great answer.
I'll talk about this
It may have been the best answer I've ever.
4 more days. Don't get me started on horror movies.
You said did you mention you write? Did you say something earlier?
Yeah,
what
I'm a
do you
writer.
write?
So I've been a writer for a long time. I started out writing like as a kid, I was writing like scripts and stories and that kind of stuff. And then I started being a sex columnist when I was in college, and I've been a professional sex writer since I was an undergrad. I've been writing for Philly Weekly for like 10 years or something like that. And my role there has changed from being like an op-ed person to like, I was like the Try It girl for a while. So like I got to climb down the side of One Logan Square and just write about it. I was, like a reporter for a period. And then now I'm doing, it's like sexuality content basically. But I've been a hired gun as a writer for a long time.
Would you ever direct a film? Like, would you ever want to evolve into like directing or something like that?
I mean, I've also done filmmaking too. I think it's a lot easier to work on my own. Like making a film is collaborative. It's hard to do that all by yourself.
Right.
So, I've ventured into that. The most I can do is like short form stuff. And like, we definitely did a lot of video content during lockdown. I had to learn how to make short films in that way, but it's not necessarily like a plot.
How did, cause I know, every industry had to evolve or like adapt to like the new normal, like, the new world, whatever, what have you. And I know fitness specifically, like a lot of it went online.
Yeah.
How'd you find that transition? Like, did you like it? Did you find benefit in like being online, stuff like that? Like, what was
There
that
were
like
pluses and minuses. Like, I know that there were a lot of people who were like, the online thing is not it. They were not going to be able to do it. Some people dipped out of burlesque entirely or just took that time off. For me, it saved my life. Having my fitness classes every day, like that's seeing my friends and doing something that's good for my body, like saved my life. It's like structure. It's like, oh man. It was also my income. And burlesque too, same thing. It's like I don't know what I would have been doing. Like all of my jobs like disappeared one day. So I literally don't know what else I would have done. So I was really fortunate. My partner that we've been talking about, Flirt Vonnegut, was instrumental to this. Like he's the one that like helped me get all of my tech and my setup and the lighting and the sound and all that kind of stuff to help make it more professional. And we got to like collaborate together on it. So he got into photography and videography more during it, and we got to work together. And it was like really nice in those ways. It was also hard for all the ways that are really obvious,
Burpees or planks?
Oh, I'm very good at planking, but I do enjoy a burpee.
I know. I love burpees.
I like a burpee.
Love burpees.
I don't want to do like 100 of them.
Right. But you could.
I
though,
absolutely
right?
could.
Right.
Yeah, no doubt. It's just I don't want to do 100 of anything.
Right. Planks
get
hurt
bored.
me, man. Planks hurt my body. I think it's because like
You don't like planking?
I don't. I think it's because you know Mario, right? Mario Freeman, Freeman from Three Queens Yoga. Do you know Mario? Maybe not.
I don't know.
She used to teach at Sweat too. Maybe y'all didn't.
Maybe. I mean, I also am not great at names.
Okay, yeah. But she was saying that because like when someone's muscular and doesn't stretch and stuff like that too, that like planks and like what do you call isometric exercises can be tough because my body's so tight and rigid. You know what I mean? So planks hurt me badly.
Oh.
Yeah.
I
But
love
burpees,
planking.
I love burpees. I do burpees.
I love doing a plank and a side plank.
Yeah.
That combo.
What are
Good
your
stuff.
What's like if someone wanted to get in, like if someone needed like a 1, 2, 3 quick hit workout, like 3 exercises. What are those 3 exercises you would give them?
Well, I would need to know like what I'm working with, like who they are, what they are already doing, like what their like injury situation is, stuff like that. I think.
Let's say previous athlete. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well, I
previous
mean,
athlete.
like I think it's pretty clear. Like most of the data indicates that like the most effective things are like squats, lunges, and push-ups. Because the push-ups basically like a plank, but you're working your arms. So I would say, yeah, that's a good answer. Like when we went into lockdown, I had to be like, okay, so we have no equipment, or I have to have the assumption that they don't have a yoga ball, they don't have weights in their house. So like it's pretty much all body weight stuff. So you can get really creative with just variations on squats, lunges, and push-ups.
That's like the foundation of like most exercises,
Yeah.
right? Pull, squat / lunge, and some
Yeah.
kind of like sit up.
Yeah.
Using that term loosely.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the whole game. All right. All right, boom. So now let's do this. Let's get into excuse me. And we already touched on some of this, but let's get into, we'll talk about sex for a little bit.
Okay.
Right? And this would be like our mind. Well, this would be like the mind, body, spirit, stuff like that. But we'll talk about sex as well, because I know people want to know about that. Okay? And like how it's healthy.
Okay.
Right? I know you can give us some information about that. But let's start with this. Do you have, and I'm going to imagine some months you do, some months you don't, or maybe you're super consistent, right? But do you have some kind of like morning routine that grounds you, or like that you feel like most focused throughout the day? Do you have a
yeah.
morning routine and an evening routine? Which I know most people, a lot of
Absolutely.
people have a morning and don't have an evening routine. But what's your morning and or evening routine?
I am built on routine. I am built on planning. That's my deal. I'm super structured. So the productive days of my life, I have an alarm, I have my coffee, I give myself like 45 minutes to like read the news and do like some of like admin work while I eat like a bagel and drink like a gigantic boob-sized cup of coffee, and then do all of the like body maintenance stuff, and then I ride my bike to go teach a class every day, pretty much every single day. There's like the order that I do all the teeth and the face and all that too. And then at the end of the night, I just kind of do it in reverse. I need like time to chill. So I'm like reading or something to like calm back down. There's like the skin care, the teeth care, all that kind of stuff.
What are you, did you get that from your parents, or like you've always been
No, it's a totally
organized?
self-figured system. I have ADD pretty significantly, but didn't find that out until I was in grad school. So like, most of us who have like some type of neurodivergence, like you have to come up with your own systems, because like the world isn't really helpful for that most of the time. Everybody's just like, just telling you to be more organized. It's like helpful. Okay, cool. So you have to come up with your own stuff. But yeah, I have just like lots of little tricks and habits and routinizations that are the same all the time. So I don't forget stuff. So I don't leave things behind.
And right, because I mean, not that I knew you were ADD, but like I assumed, or you probably
You can
told me
guess.
before.
Yeah,
Right.
you can probably guess.
But like that's like a struggle though, that like some of us or whatever have, to me at least, is like we know that structure is like helpful, routine is helpful, but the problem is sticking to the routine.
Well, that's why I
Right.
have to.
Right.
Like that is not optional. It is not optional.
I'm like routine, like I'll go like a good week of like, this feels great. Like I know what I'm doing in the morning, then it'd be like, ugh.
You have to find something that's sustainable that like you feel good doing too. Like
Right, true. And right, you said the evening routine is pretty much like in reverse.
yeah, kind of, because it's like, you got to take off the makeup, and then you got to like do the washing and the moisturizing and the
All that good stuff.
Yeah.
You said you read at night too, so like do you detach from
yeah, it
social
helps me calm
media?
down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you do like an hour. That's usually what I hear. Like,
Oh, if I start reading, there's a good chance that because it will hold my focus, my body's tiredness will just take over and I'll pass out. So then I'll end up like waking up at like 6 a.m. for no reason, and then I'll get some actual reading done and then go back to sleep again.
right. What do you read at night? Like you like fiction, or do you read personal development books?
Pretty much like nonfiction. Everything's like a science book. So like the book I just finished was all about how basically instinct isn't a real thing. That like once you actually study anything that is described as an instinctual behavior, you find out that's actually learned on some level. And then the book that I am just tearing through right now is on the use of poisoning in the Middle Ages. And so it's all about like what the conditions in a castle were like, and they were disgusting, and nobody understood how germs worked or the importance of fresh air, and then the ways that people would use poisoning as a means of assassination at the time, because it was a lot easier than trying to stab somebody. And like going back, doing modern postmortems on the bodies if they're still around, because if like they're kings and queens, their bodies are probably interred someplace you can get to them. So finding out if there's like 10,000 times as much arsenic as there should have been in them, something like that. So that's what I'm reading right now.
It probably was super easy to like poison somebody back in the day.
Depends on who it was, because some of them had like a bunch of like systems to prevent poisoning, but they also didn't really have much science around it. So like they did like silly things, that were superstitious things that they thought would protect them too. But and like having your servants like eat some of it, or like wipe their face on your napkin to make sure it's not poisoned. But like
they had ways.
But
that makes sense.
It's not a flawless system.
What podcasts, YouTube videos, or books are you like consuming right now?
So those are the books I'm on right now. For podcasts, I like Unexplainable, which is like a science podcast. Mm-hmm. I like Hidden Brain. It's Shankar Vedantham's podcast